What's going on, everybody? Welcome into the Sunbelt Syndicate, the Coastal Carolina edition, featuring Hayden Bannick, brought to you by collegefootballdogs.com. As you can see behind me, if you're watching the video version of this podcast, part of Dog TV Network, also sponsored by Dubby. I got my favorite flavor in here with me today, Aniba Elixir. Got to say that slowly so I don't mess it up. Promo code down below, SB Syndicate, right now for the next 2 days. 20% off. Usually it's 20% off for the next 2 days with SB Syndicate. The link down below there. We want to welcome our guest tonight. He hails from Findlay, Ohio, originally. He attended and was a kicker and punter at Northmore High School in Robbins, North Carolina. And I won't lie, Hayden, I had to look that up, but it is roughly between almost equal distance between Charlotte and Raleigh. He now resides in beautiful Myrtle Beach, South Carolina, by way of attending and graduating from Coastal Carolina, also UNC Pembroke. Is that correct?
That is correct. I'm enrolled in Pembroke for my Master's of Education. And another fun fact, I was also enrolled at Alderson Broaddus University playing Division II football for ABU. Made the team, accepted the scholarship, and then ultimately decided that Conway, South Carolina is a little bit more attractive than Philippi, West Virginia.
Can't blame you there. Oh, man. So, yeah, you are now an EC teacher as your full-time job, right? At West Bloodwick High School?
Yes.
Very nice. How far of a drive is that? Because that's not in Myrtle Beach, right?
Yeah, I drive about 55 minutes every day.
Nice. That's commitment, because you're also a football coach there, correct?
Correct.
And are you still doing the scouting? You said you did scouting before. You're still involved in that as well?
Yep. So for football, what I do is I chart every offensive play and every special teams play for the Coastal Carolina football games.
Dang. That's home and away, right?
Every game, every home game. For the away games, I typically did social media. So like when we were at App State, the Hawaii Bowl, I worked social media those games.
Gotcha. Very nice, man. Very nice. We want to say hello to Artie. He's our number one fan, and Hayden, he is a Texas State fan, if you haven't turned into the show. But he's not high on his Bobcats right now. He's down. He's called them to lose the last two series, and what do you know, Marv? He's been correct, right?
Yeah, that's unfortunate that you have to pick against your team and be right. But maybe he knows something we don't know.
Very true. Very true. So, Hayden, we kind of ran across each other on Twitter, I guess it was, right? Specifically, started to interact there. The thumbnail for the show, whatever you call it, for YouTube and all the social shares mentions how many games you've been to, not only for Coastal Carolina, but also just D1 in general. Tell us a little bit more about what made you do that? What made you travel so much? How can you do that? You couch surfing on some of those trips, or how's that all work for you?
Yeah, so funny enough, one day when I was in college at Coastal, because I've lived in 6 different states, and I got bored one day, so I started listing all the stadiums that I've been to, and it was a good little bit. And initially for football, I said, okay, I'll try to attend every Division I, football stadium. At 42 for that. I visited 71 out of 134. And so this past year was kind of a mild year for football for me. I basically did every Coastal home game, couple road games, did a game at Maryland. And I say it was a mild year, and yet I traveled to Hawaii for the bowl game. Since I have a mild year for football, I was like, for baseball, I want to go all out. It's Gilmore's last year, so I want to see Coastal as much as humanly possible. Today is actually the first midweek game I'm actually missing in person for Coastal. But I love going to all these different stadiums, checking out the different environments, all the different foods, all the different cultures too. It's cool to go to, Queens University and then go to Texas A&M and just see the difference of the two.
Yeah, absolutely. So you say cultures. Were you born in Ohio? Is that why I found that?
Yeah, so I was born in Ohio, grew up in Michigan, moved to Virginia. Then I hit both Carolinas and actually hit Texas for a good little bit.
Dang. World travel. Is this a military background that forced all the moves?
So my dad's actually a high school football coach. He actually coached Ben Roethlisberger in high school, so that's his claim to fame.
Oh wow!
Wow, that's really cool. So do you like know him? Do you have a little like conversation on the side ever with that guy?
No, I can't. I haven't talked to Big Ben since probably his. It would have been in high school, but the last time. But actually, no, in college because we went to some Miami games when he was in college.
Okay.
Like, we watched him in pros too, but he doesn't really go back to Finley too much. We actually went to Jerry Blevins as a relief pitcher, mainly for the New York Mets. My dad also coached him. He got inducted into the local sports Hall of Fame back home in Ohio that Big Ben is also in. But Blevins is way more involved in the high school in the area compared to Big Ben.
Interesting. That's pretty cool though. That somebody's like that's going to stick around and be involved in the local area. As far as your travels, you mentioned Texas A&M and kind of Queens, just off the top of your head. Marv's probably got some kind of the same question, and you can specifically speak to ECUs. I know that one you visited recently that Marv has experience at, but I want to know what your best venue is specifically for the Sun Belt. Let's put Coastal aside because you're probably going to consider that probably one of the coolest. And if you don't, you can let us know. But for Sun Belt and then just otherwise, like what are your top two right now or something like that?
So when it comes to baseball, it'll be tough. I haven't done a whole lot of the Sun Belt in baseball because obviously I want to get the Southern Miss because I feel like once I get the Southern Miss, that one's going to be up there. I already know it's going to be. App State was kind of cool, honestly. Pretty small stadium. They have 3 sections, and so it feels almost like high school-ish, kind of. Not a bad seat in the house, though, so can't complain there.
Yeah. I'm
going to Marshall at the end of the year. I kind of wish it was at the YMCA because that's kind of sexy. But they finally got a stadium there. But for all sports all around, I've been to pretty much every Sun Belt school there is. I want to say, even though there are rivals, I can't say I've had a bad time in Boone. I've been there 3 or 4 times for baseball and football. You start, kind of downtown, hit up a brewery or something, then you go get lunch at River Street Ale House, and you walk up the hill, go to football, go to baseball. If you go into baseball, it's a long walk.
Yeah.
Football wise though, Marshall was awesome. I went to the anniversary game on November 14th a couple years ago. Texas State was super cool. Texas State basketball was probably my favorite one for basketball, at least, because their student section actually overfilled their allotment to where I was the only Coastal guy in San Marcos. So, and all the students ended up coming up behind the Coastal bench where I was at. So that was just super cool to be next to dudes that were drinking beer out of a boot. So.
Marv does that. Like sometimes when I turn the camera on, I'm like Marv's midstream of a boot beer.
Man, nothing wrong with a shoey every now and again. As long as it's your own shoe, I don't trust other people. So Hayden, Dom told me that you went to Duke's baseball stadium. Was that this year?
Yes, I've been to Duke's baseball stadium this year. When I first moved down to the Carolinas, when I was a little kid. I would actually be a bat boy for the Miami Hurricanes. Anytime they came to the Carolinas, whether it be a conference game or a conference tournament, I've also bat boyed in a regional for the U. So I've been to Duke a whole lot, and I thought that they renovated, and that's why they were finally back on campus. But Duke's baseball stadium is on campus, obviously. They've been playing at Durham Bulls for the last however many years.
Yeah.
But their stadium is almost like it's like a Fenway. You have obstructive views everywhere, but it's very, very, very high school-ish. There's an overhang over every seat, which is great if it's hot out. If not, it sucks because there's a fly ball. You don't really know where it's going. Depends on where he's sitting at. You can't see if it's going fair or foul down first, third base line. They have pop-up bathrooms. They have pop-up concession stand.
Yep.
The bathroom is like in the main facility. You have to walk down in between. It's kind of weird. And for Duke to be a top 10 team playing a national powerhouse, they're not good this year, but typically everyone knows the Miami Hurricane baseball brand. But for it to be a campus game, I think there was maybe 5 college students there, and they were like soccer players for Duke. And it was just the attendance was awful. The weather wasn't terrible, but you have a top 10 program. Why are you not showing out? Same thing with Wake Forest. If you went to the Coastal Wake Forest game, top 20 matchup, and I don't think there was any students there, and a couple hundred fans, if that.
You had the exact same Duke experience that Dom and I had. So Dom and I went to the Duke app game 2 years ago when it was at the Durham Bulls Park, and obviously that's a fantastic facility. So we went this year, and I'd never been to the baseball stadium. And you get there, and I had the same thought as you. I was like, why in the world is a top 10 program playing in this beyond, like below mediocre stadium with porta potties as bathrooms, and they ship food in. I don't know. I was just very underimpressed, and with the money that school has, you would have thought they had a nicer facility for like I said, their top 10 baseball program. They can make it to Omaha this year, and they're playing in a dump.
Absolutely.
Yeah. The thing that shocked me, and I talked to Marv about it when we first got there, is like as I'm walking up, I passed 16 people that are throwing out fresh mulch all over the grounds, and I'm like, you can't throw some money at this baseball stadium and have a bathroom in it. That was pretty shocking to me. The field itself looks nice. The stadium, as far as where the field is at, is seemingly okay, but the stands and the surrounding little outside area of the actual ballpark itself is just like, ugh, I don't know. I was very unimpressed, and I did not expect that when it comes to a Duke facility with all kinds of private school money. It certainly goes to basketball first, football second, and baseball might not even be third. They might put more into their track team and facility than they do their baseball program.
They got a lacrosse team, bud. True.
Yeah, lacrosse team. Artie has a question for you. Well, first of all, he said Georgia State. He was talking about best facility because he loves to hate on Georgia State's baseball facility. Have you been to that one in Atlanta?
No, because I like my life, honestly. So,
good answer.
Oh man, that is a good answer. So he does want to know, and this is interesting. You can talk about what you're watching in the background behind you as well. He wants to know if you've ever gotten to attend any games in Omaha.
So I have not attended a game in Omaha. I'm actually watching Coastal and Creighton over my shoulder right here. Still 3-3, right, guys? Still 3-3. It looks like bottom 6. But on my resume, I do have that I hit a wiffle ball home run at the Johnny Rosenblatt Memorial in Omaha.
Okay. So you've been out there. You just haven't been to a game for the College World Series or otherwise, I guess, as far as college baseball is concerned.
Correct. I actually would have been there today, but flights jumped up $400, and I was like, all right, spend $600 now. And I was like, no, I'll save it in case there's a part 2 in June. That would be pretty important.
Yeah. No, I agree with that. It would be cool, but like you said, midweek, that much money, yikes, that's got to be tough. All right, so we talked about your best experiences in the Sun Belt. What one may be your tops right now, either this year or ever, for anything outside of the Sun Belt baseball-wise as far as venue is concerned?
So still going baseball-wise or?
Well, you can do football too. Give me both.
Okay. So if it's going baseball, Florida was a pretty electric place. South Carolina was pretty solid as well. I love it when stadiums have where you can walk around the entire facility. That's usually a huge plus for me, and especially if you sell beer there, that's another plus. Even though I'm a bat boy from Miami, I love the environment down at the U. They have a guy that makes handcrafted milkshakes that are phenomenal. Environment is awesome. Fans get into it. It's not a golf match by any means down there. Football wise, top environments would have to be Michigan in the big house. Believe it or not, BYU was probably the most fun I've had sober. It was super weird. It's super weird. So a lot of my friends, I used to work for this company in Myrtle Beach that has interns, so they're kind of all over the place. So that's why I have a lot of connections with all these different cities and states. Well, I had a lot of friends that were at BYU, so there was one weekend where I did 2-for-1. I went to Utah Friday night, Utah drinks and parties. I go to BYU Saturday. It's a 10 o'clock kickoff, 10 o'clock Eastern time, 8 o'clock Mountain. So I was like, all right, we got till 8 o'clock to party. I'm like, when do the frats get together? When's the tailgate? This, that, and a third. And he goes, yeah, we don't really do that here. We just kind of like go to the game and like get milk and cookies after. And I'm like, you got to be joking me. You got to be joking. So we get to the stadium, and there's like one guy grilling out hot dogs. There's not a side of alcohol, not a side of fun in the parking lot. I'm like, man, this is going to suck. And it was actually Zach Wilson's first start of that game.
Oh.
Go in the stadium, sat in the student section. Electric. Awesome. Love every minute of it. So honestly, I think BYU and Michigan kind of compete for the top atmospheres in football. I've been to plenty of SEC, though. I've been to LSU, Florida, Tennessee, South Carolina, Mississippi State. I've been to the Egg Bowl. That was super cool to see that on Thanksgiving. But yeah, it's got it. BYU was one of the weirdest ones. Texas A&M is super weird too. So I'm decked out in my good stuff there, and everyone's shaking my hand, thanking me for coming out there, this, that, and a third. And they're asking me like, what do you do for a living? Like, how'd you come up from Miami to College Station? I'm like, well, I came from North Carolina actually, but I'm like, yeah, I'm a high school teacher, first year. That was last year, and they're like, how in the hell can a high school teacher afford to come out to Texas for a football game? But hey, it's amazing. Like I said, I've been to 42 Division I baseball games this year. Haven't paid for a single ticket for all 42 games, and
Nice.
I think I've spent around $850 all year on college baseball.
That's awesome.
Are
So
you
you driving and crashing on couches and just kind of living by generosity of other people?
Oh yeah, this year we've had plenty of days where I wake up at 5:50 in the morning, go to high school, drive 3.5 hours to Wake Forest, drive 3 hours to Carolina, drive 2.5, 3 hours to Duke, drive 2.5 to ECU, and back in the same day, and then go to work the next day. Granted, when we went to ECU, I did not go to work the next day. We got back at like 3:30 in the morning. We had a little Animal Crossing issue where a deer was feeling a little risky, and the deer lost. But
Oh man.
How was how would you rate ECU? So I was born and raised in Greenville. I grew up going to games at ECU. The stadium's different now, but from what I remember back in the day, they were rowdy and a good time.
Oh yeah, I'm glad it actually brings me to a really good point about atmospheres of college baseball. So at Coastal, for the most part, years past, we had all the frats line the outfield, and they would look up the players' Instagrams and stuff like that, and talk about their girlfriends, and they would just find all this stuff, and just go at it. And then the next day, all their stuff would be private. But always had a really good atmosphere at Coastal. And then this year, there's been a cop that's just been on a major power trip. For instance, buddy of mine was actually over the Old Dominion bullpen. Just the guys warming up. All he was saying was, "Oh, that's low. Oh, that's outside. It's going to hit a guy. Oh, that's a strike. Keep it up. Keep it up. It's going to go 400 feet, but keep it up." And then he gets called in. He was like, "Hey, keep the confidence. Good luck out there." Just says that. And then the director of baseball operations looks up and he goes, "Oh, it's always the fat ones." And dude is well south of 200 pounds. I'm like, whoa. I'm like, that's a hard take. And then this cop just comes out of nowhere. He looks up and he was like, "Hey, we're not doing that today. You're done." And he's like, "I didn't break any rules. I didn't cuss, didn't say anything sexist or racist or anything like that." And he goes, "Nah, I'll escort you out." So he escorts him out, gives him a year ban. And I'm like, whoo, if that gets you a year ban, I should have been lifetime sentenced a long time ago at Coastal when I was a student. But then this past weekend, we had a student that was heckling the left fielder for who the hell did we play this past weekend?
Louisiana.
Yeah, Louisiana. Yeah, can't wait.
It's on the screen. It's on the screen for you.
Oh, perfect. Watching the game here, but no. So playing Louisiana, and then from what I know and from what everybody has told me, that this fan was just mindlessly heckling, cussing every now and then. But the cop ends up arresting him and throwing him on the ground and putting his knee in his back and like hands behind his back, this, that, and a third. I'm like, for cussing? Like, I get it. If you're cussing, be like, hey, it's time for you to go. Take them on out, come back tomorrow. But to body slam somebody, put their knee in the back, that cop has ruined, the fun at Coastal, because think about it. A lot of the fans were complaining about the attendance this past weekend. Okay, well, everyone from Coastal is from the Northeast. They have college baseball, but it's not big up there, even though they got some really good teams like Northeastern, UConn, so on, St. John's. But these students come down to Coastal, they see 75 degrees, 80 degrees, they go to the beach. But then when you go on Twitter or Instagram, Facebook, or Yik Yak, whatever, and you see that fans are getting lifetime ban or year-long bans for heckling, and then for cussing, you get a knee in the back and arrested, why in the hell would I go to the game if I'm a student, if I can't go heckle, have fun? That's why. So after that ordeal at Coastal, Buddy and I went to ECU, and I was like, hey, you got to experience the jungle. I've been to the jungle a few times. But we have to go. So we go there, and they, this guy, the guy that runs the jungle Twitter page and the Scallywags page, they show us around. Super hospitality was amazing. Free drinks galore. Didn't have to pay for a single thing, so that was awesome. But they basically show, like, they have a PG section, and then over in Wright is kind of the more frat rated R version, where you just kind of let everything go. I've been seeing videos from the NC State game today. I mean, that place looks electric. I'm like, imagine that when you can actually go to a baseball game and have fun and not have to worry about getting a ban or a ticket or a knee in the back. So hopefully that cop is gone for good, and Coastal can get back to that lit environment. That's why I wish I could take everyone on a road trip, because I want to show them Texas A&M, Miami, Florida, Ole Miss, Mississippi State, Arkansas. Show them those environments and be like, hey, this is what college baseball is, not a golf match like it has been previously. So that's why I'm glad I still have a voice, because I have to carry the weight because everyone's afraid there now.
Yeah, makes sense. So speaking of golf matches, unfortunately, we didn't get to meet up, but I was at the UNC game versus Coastal with my son the other day. Last week, right? I guess it was last week at this point.
Yeah, last Tuesday.
What'd you think of that? I was not impressed with their stadium's phenomenal. They got a good team, but the atmosphere there, until the late game stuff, obviously, in the 8th, 9th, they woke up. But before that, I was just not really impressed with the atmosphere there in Chapel Hill.
Yeah, very, very similar to us, kind of, actually, but more extreme. They're a very wine and cheese crowd. I've been to games at the Dean Dome, and it's kind of the same. It's a way older crowd. They kind of just sit there and enjoy the game. For me, that's kind of almost more like do that at a minor league park. College baseball, you got to have the environment. Like I've seen way more lively environments at minor league stadiums. But Carolina, like finally in the 9th inning, I started to hear some heckling. I was actually with the guy that runs 5th quarter ACC. We were sitting next to a lot of UNC fans. We were on the front row. And I was like, hey, they finally woke up, Top of the 9th, it's about time I start hearing some chirps and some heckling. But, the game started 3 hours ago. Where have you been?
Yeah.
That sounds typical for Carolina. That's an old, like you said, old money crowd, man. They're not out to have fun. They're just out to be seen.
Yeah, that's true. So one more thing about that game specifically, and then Artie's got a question I'll put up on the screen for you to answer. But what do you think about the marching band? I had a lot of people, when I caught that part in the picture that I posted, a lot of people were interested that they had a marching band at the game. I mean, they didn't do any marching. They just played their instruments in the seats. But I haven't really seen that either. So what do you think about that aspect?
It's unique. I kind of liked it. I love all the fight songs that they do. I kind of wish they were more active. They were kind of wine and cheese for a good little bit too. It seemed like. But another interesting aspect when it comes to marching bands and stands. So at Coastal we have 2 bat girls, 2 ball girls, and when I was a student we would have 5 members of the dance team up on the concourse, and they would do walk-up dances to every walk-up song, or like any in-between song. They always did dances. So that was something unique that we had going on for a good little bit.
So why is that ended? Do you know a reason why that's not happening anymore?
Yeah. So shit. I'll try to do my best and be politically correct with this one. But there was a student who was in a kind of like a life skills program, if you guys know what that is. And, she would always go out to these games. And this is all from what I've heard. And the girl, I used to date a girl that was on the dance team, so the information is pretty accurate when it comes to this. But she would always go to these games, stand next to the team, do all the dances, this, that, and the third. And you can't really tell her no. Can't really tell her to leave either. And then, which that was fine and all. But then her mom actually bought the same exact uniforms that the Chanticleer girls had on. Oh. And then that's kind of when the dance coach was like, all right, I can't really tell her no and to leave, so we'll just end it in general.
Gotcha. Interesting aspect, because you want to be nice, but you also you can't be responsible for someone who's not part of what you're really doing. So Artie is asking if you've been to any Ivy League stadiums. Old, but some are incredible looking. So I don't know if you've been up there to see some of those games.
So I haven't seen games, but I have been in the Yale Bowl and to Harvard.
Okay. And what'd you think about those? Just walking around and seeing those? Nice and impressive?
Oh yeah, I loved it. One year I'm definitely doing a Harvard Yale game for sure, no doubt. Ideally, I like to do a home and home. From what I've seen, those games get pretty electric. Atmosphere looks super cool. I want to say, correct me if I'm wrong, but Yale is in New Haven, Connecticut, if I'm not mistaken, or somewhere around there. And I'll tell you what, I went to this one restaurant, and I had the best beer of my entire life. It was a pineapple cider, believe it or not. Huh. But I had probably the best wrap that I've ever had. Like I would drive there tonight just for that.
Wow.
Give me a reason to go back to Yale for sure.
Okay. I was going to assume it might have been a pizza that you had up in that area, because that's obviously a hallmark in there in that area. So interesting. What was in the wrap? You remember specifically kind of what was in it?
Oh yeah, it was one of those one of those chicken wraps, buffalo chicken. It had some kind of like Southwest sauce or seasoning to it.
Nice.
Super good. Super good. A lot of veggies.
Nice. Artie wants to know if you've been to any service academies as well.
Yeah, so I've actually only been to Navy. Come to think, been in the Navy a few times. I went to the 9/11 game, Air Force and Navy, and that was during the national anthem. If you didn't have a tear in your eye at that 9/11 game, you weren't American. I'm not gonna lie to you. That's probably one of the only games I've shed a tear at. I mean, that was super cool environment. Air Force ran away with that game, but I mean, it's so awesome to watch all the academies march on the field, and then they do the exchange before the game. I mean, that's another, if I had to rank a top 5, I think solely based on that, of the 42 football stadiums I've been to, Navy is top 5 just because of that. And downtown Annapolis is awesome. But if you go there, you got to have a sideways ID. If you have the up and down one, you ain't my boy's from Maryland. He's saying no, don't. He's saying it's mid, but I'm saying I had a great time in downtown Annapolis. Old Bay wings are awesome. There's some cooler boards there, but again, if you don't have a sideways ID, they won't let you in because I guess Maryland law you have to have the sideways one. So I had to fight with that one when I went there a couple years ago, but still
Interesting. Well, fellow Chanticleer, TJ O'Sullivan, who actually had on during the basketball podcast, and he actually got to go out and cover the Final Four. Does a phenomenal job. But he's always talked about how big of a Coastal baseball fan he is. He's up there in the Syracuse region or area right now because that's where he resides. But he's letting us know that Yale is in New Haven, Connecticut, because he's from the Connecticut area. So yeah. Joe is joining us tonight too. Could you rank a top 5 of schools that used COVID to escape competition?
Oh man, let me to escape competition. Let me go number 1, the Michigan Wolverines for ducking Ohio State.
I don't think that's the answer he's looking for.
No, I think he's got a certain one at number 1 for you.
see, my answer to that is Massimo Biscardi kicking the game-winning field goal down in Lafayette, winning 30-27. Coastal went 8-0. I think Louisiana went 7-1. Coastal beat Louisiana on the road. It's kind of where I stand on that one. Do I think that they should have had a redemption game? I mean, me as a fan, I wanted that to happen. I really wanted that game. But
Here,
hey,
he's ranked
it is what it is. We Coastal
he's ranked them for you.
And they're
that reminds me
still Michigan 1, Coastal 2.
The Dave Chappelle skit. Who are the top 5 rappers alive? Coastal, 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 and Coastal.
Yeah, that's exactly what he's going after. Oh man, what? I'm gonna change this so we have something to different look at. We've got CJ jumping on the.
Speaking of Coastal in Louisiana.
Yeah. Go ahead, Demar.
No, I mean that's the series this weekend I was alluding to.
Yes. Yes, we've got a resident JMU fan, CJ, joining, and TJ's got another comment before this comes out. Louisiana had COVID cases as well. Yeah. Yep, they all did. Luckily, that's over. I did see you got quoted at the BYU Coastal game, so I know you were at that one, Hayden. So real quick, before we get into the standings, that last little thing about football, what was that atmosphere like? Because that was probably one of the games of the year at any level, because of the atmosphere there was second to none, really, as far as that season was concerned.
That game, I mean, like I said, I've been to plenty of games at Michigan. I've been to over half of the SEC. I've been to, a handful of Big Ten, a couple Big 12. Haven't done the Pac-12, and I won't do the Pac-12 because that's done. But, of all the environments I've been to, I promise you, even though there were 5,000 fans there because of the COVID restrictions, probably the most electric that 5,000 fans have ever been. I wish we could have stormed the field. I wish it wasn't COVID, but if it wasn't COVID, it would have never happened. Because Liberty had to cancel, and we ended up playing Liberty in the bowl game. But we ain't gonna talk about that. But BYU comes to town, on a notice of Wednesday. We have college game day that morning. And then after the game, Coastal ultimately ends up winning. We go straight to Coop, and Coop kind of said, screw the restrictions, but we got closed at 11. And I won't forget, man, after the game, we go straight to Coop, party hard, no restrictions. And I live right down the road from the stadium. And Buddy and I are walking back, after celebrating, and we see that the gate was open. So we were like, what a better idea would it be to go on midfield and do a couple shots and then continue to walk back home. So that's how we ended our night against BYU.
Very nice. Very nice. I like that. Already saying the crawfish in Lafayette even had COVID. Joe said you've been to more college stadiums than Grayson McCall went to classrooms at Coastal Carolina.
I can confirm. I've been to 109 college stadiums, so I would like the odds of being at more college stadiums than Grayson McCall going to class.
What's the consensus with that? Is a lot of fans talking about, kind of keeping interest in him, even though he's at NC State now, or is it kind of like he's gone? We're going to focus on Noah Kim as he comes in here from Michigan State type of thing.
Everyone at Coastal, including myself, they're saying that I hope he throws for 400 yards a game, 5 touchdowns, no picks, but they lose and go 0-12.
That's a way to do it. That's a way to do it. We've got Robert Bennett joining the show. How going to the Pac-2 game? It'll be a blast in the conference all year. Yeah. The 2 games, you could just go to one game and you cover the whole conference. It's a miracle of science. All right, so getting into the standings. I'm guessing, did you take in all 3 games with Louisiana and Coastal this past weekend?
Yes, I did.
Very nice. So what were your thoughts and feelings? I mean, we're going to just let you roll on this one because you saw it specifically, probably saw all of it compared to Marv and I, who didn't get to see all of any of those games, I'm sure. I know, Marv, I didn't. I kept tuning in when I could, but I didn't get to watch a whole one in entirety.
No, I caught innings here and there. But, Yeah, I want to see you take it away. Obviously, I picked Coastal to win that series, so I'm not surprised. I still think Coastal's the best team in the conference until someone beats them. I think they could maybe get second in the regular season, but ultimately win the conference tournament. But yeah, how was the atmosphere? Obviously, without a cop running around beating up people, it probably could have been better. But just your overall thoughts on the series and how it went.
Yeah, overall it went well. Like you said, I think we're essentially competing for second. Louisiana has a great lead on us, even though we took the series. But they played a lot of the bottom half of the teams early on, kind of winning their advantage. They got a couple pitchers. Their Friday guy, 1.90 ERA. Saturday guy, 1.91 ERA. But we looked really great against both of the guys. Friday, Coastal kind of handled business. Graham Brown I would say he's back, but he never left. He's just getting more key hits, more timely doubles, some big time RBIs. Blake Barthel has quieted down on terms because he's not hitting the long ball anymore. He got up to 14 homers real quick, was in like the top 5 in the nation. Really hasn't been a homer in probably about a month, but he's still getting timely hits, doubles, RBIs, getting on base. Another thing with getting on base, this whole weekend series, Sam Antonacci, he's kind of one of those guys that, that if you're a boss, you want him to work for you because he shows up to work. He doesn't ask questions, doesn't really say anything. He gets his work done and goes home. That's kind of like his attitude, and it works. Dude gets on base. I mean, he's actually been on base every single game this year. But when you look at the series, game 2, Coastal kind of had a really good start first couple innings as they did in game 1. But Louisiana brought in a lefty that Coastal just wasn't messing around with. And then number 45 was 45 a lefty? He was a lefty, or was he a righty?
I think he was righty.
Yeah. So number 45, don't know what his name was. I just know his number, and I was like, I don't want to see that guy ever again. He sat Coastal down, and if he would have thrown all 3 games, which is impossible, but we might have a different scenario at the end of this series here. But when it comes to pitching at Coastal, I mean, a lot of people don't know that we don't have our entire starting rotation is not what we thought it was going to be. Over the summer, our number 1 guy, Liam Doyle, he's a lefty. He was in the Cape Cod League, had no intention to transfer. And I actually talked with the person at Coastal who's in charge of putting people in the portal. He said that, Doyle goes to the Cape Cod League, has no intention of transferring, gets poached by this Ole Miss coach that offered him a big NIL. So he's gone to Ole Miss. So there's our number 1 starter. And then you can make an argument that Matthew Potok would be the number 2 guy. He had, I want to say it was Tommy John, or he had a season-ending injury last year. He can't pitch at all this year. Then you have Morrison, same thing towards the end of the year last year, had surgery. He's out this year. So you're out, arguably, you're number 1, 2, and 3. So doing all of this with guys that you were looking at, possibly a Tuesday starter, possibly, a bullpen guy, maybe another guy fighting for a weekend start. So for them to kind of do what they're doing is pretty impressive on this staff. Really young staff too, ton of freshmen. Cameron Flukie was kind of off. His last 2 starts, he went 5 innings and he shoved both of them. Against Louisiana, he only went about maybe 2 or 3, but Louisiana was tagging him pretty well. So we had to go to the bullpen early on in game 2, which was not to our advantage, considering that we had another game after that. And in that game, we just did what we do best, and that's outscoring people. Like, I put together all of our offensive stats, every 5-7 games. And I'm like, man, how has this team lost a game? But, we score, it feels like 9 runs a game, if not more. The only thing is we probably give up about 7 or 8. So we just have to outscore everyone, and that's what we did in game 3 to win the series, which was huge.
Yeah, that was definitely a big win. We kind of talked about it. You're right. Louisiana kind of ran away with it early because of who they played, and hey, no fault to them. I mean, you take wins when you can get them. Coastal and everybody else is trying to play catch up. A sweep would have been massive there, but hey, take 2 out of 3. Once again, I don't know if it's going to be too little, too late. But if they had to play in the championship game in the conference tournament, I'd put my money on Coastal.
Yeah, so far not a bad pick. CJ's got a current score update from us. Maryland has beaten JMU 6-4 tonight. TJ O'Sullivan is agreeing with you here, Hayden. Coastal consistently puts up runs. The bullpen has been spotty over the past 5 seasons. And Beer Hose Boys, I believe Southern Miss fans there on Twitter, wants to know if you feel like that might be tampering from the Ole Miss coach there to grab your guy away like that.
Absolutely. I mean, there has to be some restriction on this whole NIL thing, because here's my thing. There's a story of this kid that was at UNC or Virginia Tech, one of the two, and he transferred in to be close to his grandma because I guess the grandma was dying, and he wanted to be close to her, play, around the family, and he gets eligibility denied, but a player can be like, hey, I just got offered, a couple $100,000. I'm going to get a transfer to Ole Miss. And he's allowed to go, doesn't have to sit out for a year. So I think they got some fixing to do when it comes to this whole NIL and transferring thing.
Dom, how much do you wish Seth was here right now?
Yeah, greatly wish. And I want to apologize, Beer Hose Boys. So your logo, your profile picture is small on the hat, which the hat looks to me from a distance like black and yellow. So that's why I thought it was a Southern Miss thing. He wants to say that, how dare you, because I'm a UL fan. But he also says that he would take Louisiana over Coastal in any other ballpark. I'm gonna think that TJ and Hayden would disagree pretty vehemently with that.
I mean, we do play in a very hitter-friendly ballpark, and we have a lot of hitters, so it works out in our advantage for sure. We have a guy, like I said, Sam Antonashi earlier, that, he hit one. It just kept carrying, and then just sneaks over the fence. And in most other ballparks, it's probably caught. But, it'd be interesting if it comes down to Coastal Louisiana towards the end of the Sun Belt tournament. It's going to be really interesting to see, because we don't have a lot of arms, so that could play in favor of Louisiana. And Coastal struggles greatly with lefties. So if you throw out a lefty, I mean, we saw it this past weekend. We went probably 4 or 5 innings without a run, against a lefty. They just, for whatever reason, they really struggle against us.
But you struck out a lefty to win the game at UNC, right?
That's different. we can strike out lefties, but hitting against him is a different story.
Oh, I see. Lefty pitchers. Got you. Right. Okay. I see what you're getting at. Yep. All right. So, and just so everyone is aware, I haven't actually had any comments on the stream live tonight, although I did have some comments when I posted these standings up. They do not match the standings on the conference website. And Hayden, I want to get your thoughts on this. Marv and I have kind of talked about it before. For whatever reason, they seem to be using the overall winning percentage as the tiebreaker right now when they're doing the conference standings, which maybe makes sense for, NCAA aspect. But for conference tournament time, I'm using the tiebreakers that they're going to use to determine the seeds. So to me, I like to see this look because I want to know where these teams are going to sit if the season were to end today. I want an accurate portrayal. Now, in the Sunbelt website rankings, Troy is above Southern Miss because of their winning percentage overall. However, they had a head-to-head matchup already, and Southern Miss took that series from Troy. So for that reason, they are third. Troy is second. James Madison hasn't played either, but I guess technically that doesn't matter because they're only 10-8 at the moment. And Coastal, I don't think Coastal's played Southern Miss or Troy, right?
Correct. We played Troy this weekend. Southern Miss in May.
Okay, so by virtue of Coastal beating the best team in the conference, statistically speaking, they are above both Southern Miss and Troy in that aspect, even though they haven't had a head-to-head matchup because the second tiebreaker is going against the best team, your winning percentage against the best team. And maybe a little bit of that is assumption because I'm not sure either Southern Miss or Troy has gone against the Cajuns yet either. I don't think they have. But since Coastal came out with a winning percentage, I'm going to put them above both of those teams too. So interesting tie-breaking aspects, and obviously there's more there in the middle. But the other crazy thing to me is from Coastal down to South Alabama, a 3-game sweep by the number 2 team to the number 10 team in this conference could entirely flip the whole. Now, obviously, those aren't likely scenarios, but that just shows you how close this conference is. It's just nuts right now. And then, of course, we had App State and Arkansas State pull off a tie, which is the most random thing. Lots of people saying they didn't even know you could still tie in college baseball. I think the last one in the Sun Belt was 2 seasons. I don't think there was one last year, and you can correct me if you remember off the top of your head, Hayden or Marv, but I think it was 2022, not 23, when there was one in the Sun Belt at last check.
Unless you were 12, I didn't think you could tie in baseball. That's when the game ended. I was watching it. I'd got home from practice, and I was like, what do you mean they're calling the game? You and I and Seth were texting like, it's something about the travel requirements. I'm like, that is the dumbest thing I've ever heard in my life. Let them finish that game. Because you got to think about it. Top 6 teams basically get buys, if you will. 7 through 10 have to do a play-in. What happens if App finished 7th because of a tie game? It's just, I don't know. I feel like you play the dang game, man. We traveled all the way to Arkansas. Let's play some baseball.
Yeah. I made a comment on it because somebody else alluded to something. I think it was on one of the Reddit posts that I put up. I said, if you look at it through this lens, they're student athletes, right? They always say that NCAA student first, then athletes second. It's the one thing that they might actually do correctly to probably win people over on the fact they're trying to get these kids back at a reasonable time for classes on Monday morning. We all know that's a fallacy. There's other stuff. There's probably other reasons, like they save money or something. You know what I mean? Like, I don't know. But it's the one thing that they could point to as a win, saying like, oh, no, we're still focusing on the health and well-being of these athletes before, telling them to go out there and give it all for their school. But interesting nonetheless. Before we move on, TJ is saying the Palace is beautiful, but it is small. And Beer Hose Boys are saying, nope, USM this weekend and Troy the following weekend. That was part of that schedule conversation we just had. So we'll move into the weekend's games that we just had and then talk about some of the midweeks that are either currently going on, finished, or coming up. App State, as we mentioned, goes 2-0-1 against Arkansas State. They had those bats swinging in the first 2 games, winning the first one 20-7, second one 12-3, and then, of course, they had that random 12-12 tie. Defense optional in this one for both teams, really, in that last game, and specifically that first game. Any thoughts on this one, Marv? We know our guy Austin didn't really have much going on Friday. Didn't need it with the 20-7 win, but he warmed up pretty good on Saturday and then had a pretty good Sunday as well.
Yeah, I mean, obviously the bats were going all weekend. I think we had to come back from 4 down in the top of the ninth to tie that game to have a tie, which is ridiculous. Really wish they would have let him play it out, but App needed this really bad. App needs this series against Georgia State this weekend really bad. Because we got off hot and then JMU and Troy kind of slowed us down a little bit. But, man, good to see him hit the ball like that. Just would have liked to have been able to finish the game and find out what would have happened.
Yeah, no doubt about it. Hayden, got any thoughts on App State and Arkansas State? Obviously kind of maybe a disappointment to have dropped a series to App earlier this season, but I guess it looks pretty good when they can put up some numbers like they did against Arkansas State.
Oh, yeah, I knew going into that, the App State Coastal Series that App State can hit the ball. They're not the same App State team from years past where we would look at that and assume it was a guaranteed sweep or, at least a 2-1 series win. But they're doing really good. I mean, they can really hit the ball. When I was in Boone, same thing. They out-hit us. We scored 33 runs that series, but we gave up 36. So it's hard to win games when you give up 36 runs in a weekend, but we scored 33. At least it makes it interesting. And of course, I think the wind chill was 25 degrees. So for the Beach Boys, it was a little chilly out there.
Yeah, it was definitely a cold one, that's for sure. TJ saying a bunch of football scores. App needs to talk to their place kicker. Yeah, there was a lot of football scores this whole past weekend. I kept seeing a bunch of Friday scores were way up there for a number of teams, but. Marv, have you had a check recently on the App ETSU game?
Yeah, I'm watching it now. We had a really bad 7th inning. It is now 11-11 in the top of the 9th.
Wow. Oh, man.
Yikes. So, fun fact, ETSU, next month, I want to say May 8th, I believe, is a Wednesday. So actually be throwing out the first pitch at East Tennessee State University.
Nice.
Very cool.
How'd you swing that?
So, buddy mine's the director of marketing at ETSU. So,
Nice. Very cool, man. I've never done that. I think that'd be pretty cool to do. So awesome. Congrats on that one. Oh, that's going to be pretty. Have you done that before, I guess, is going to be my next question.
I've never thrown a first pitch. I've made 3 half-court shots at basketball games, though.
2. Did you get any money for that?
Like $50 at the AC tournament, 15 seconds of fame. I made SportsCenter top 10, so that was pretty cool.
Very
nice, cool. Very nice, man. I should have found that clip and put that up for here for tonight.
Believe me, it's plastered. I was teaching school at the time, and my students found it. They watched the game, and they're like, "Oh my God, it's Mr. Bannick!" And in the video, I went to go celebrate with the mascot, and I end up going to hit the brakes, and I just end up wiping out, right on the side. Jump back up, and I go celebrate with the mascot and the cheer team. But it's on the internet. Don't worry, it's easy to find.
We're gonna find it, and I'm gonna reshare it here recently now. Let's see. Artie is saying Texas State has won the run rule versus UIW, incarnate word for those who want to know what the hell UIW stands for. But they run ruled them 10-0, so Texas State gets back in the win column. I think actually, Artie, we'll get to it in a minute, but I think they won their last game to avoid being swept this weekend. So they continue their winning ways here. Arkansas State is playing Central Arkansas. I believe that game is...
It's right now. I'm trying to find a score.
Okay. So you can let us know that one if you find it. Hayden, while we got current scores we're talking about, any update to the Creighton Coastal game for you?
Yeah, Coastal scored 3 in the first, and they have not touched home since. Creighton's actually up 4-3, looks like going into the bottom of the 8th. But since you mentioned Central Arkansas, they got a sexy field. Like every 5 yards, one's purple and like the other one's like gray. It's super cool.
Oh, for their football.
Yeah, for the football, yeah.
Yeah. You like okay, and Coastal's got a colored field too. You like the colored fields? You're a fan of that?
Oh, I love it. So like I've never watched a Coastal game on TV that was at Coastal because I'm always at them. But I will give it to the people that watch the games on TV. It is kind of hard to watch. I've seen some highlights. I don't know if I could sit for 3.5 hours and do that, but in person is so much better.
It is god awful on TV.
Yeah. I don't know what it is. I rarely feel like I see a Coastal game on TV that's like bright, sunny, and nice weather. It's weird. When those happen, I'm sure I'm at another game, and that's why I'm not seeing those ones. But the ones I do see happen to be like nighttime or like fog, just like rain. I think Texas State game this past year was like a bunch of rain during that one. When it's weather like that, it is insanely hard to see for whatever reason. But yeah, I will agree with you. Having been there once and watching it, I don't even think about it when you're there live. Like it's not something that I even cared about. Like doesn't bother me at all. I will say, what is the Eastern Washington? Have you seen that one? The alternating red and black.
Red, yeah.
To me, that one's a little too much. Central Arkansas at least seems to not be like so bright purple that I don't know. It kind of works because it seems like a faded color to an extent, which whatever. The red and black
is leading Arkansas State 7-5 in the bottom of the 7th.
Not surprised.
Yeah, me either.
Central Arkansas just loves to beat up on I'll put in quotes big brother because I don't know they don't seem to have a lot of trouble with Arkansas State here lately. So, but Artie's got they're traveling to Jonesboro. Texas State is this time. And he's agreeing it is a little too much on TV. But TJ is disagreeing. He's saying the surf is awesome. Change my mind. In person, I don't know if I'd say it's awesome to me. It doesn't bother me in person at all whatsoever. But yeah, on the screen, I don't know. I would actually probably prefer if you guys had the teal and I don't know, like a light gray alternate, like something to make it, I don't know, pop more or something. I don't know.
Yeah, I've been to Eastern Michigan and they have the all gray turf, and it doesn't look bad, but when you watch it on TV, it looks like you're watching from like the old times where it's like, green, black. Yeah, super weird watching on TV, but in person, way different.
I don't know the answer to this question, so I'll ask you because maybe you'll know. Is there a single baseball team that has like any different color field than green?
Ooh.
That is a good question.
No,
Get the Google machine out.
Yeah, we'll have to look that up. But that's just an interesting thing because there's obviously now a number of teams that have turf fields where they could feasibly pull that off. And we know, recently within the past couple of years, App State's stadium or surrounding area, I guess is the better way to put it, has exploded because of the colors in the trees. Obviously, that's not the field itself, but you would think if you need to draw attention to yourself, you would put a colored field out there for baseball because you can go there. So maybe something interesting for a team struggling in recruiting to try and do something to spark that up. Artie said, I was just going to say that, Dominic, that red and black is hard on the eyes. Bit great. But great helmet logo. Sorry, I made that into a run-on sentence there. They do have a good logo, and I like the colors themselves. I just don't like it on the field. So the jerseys are great. The field, not so much. CJ is saying if only JMU could get purple and white turf. Oof, that would be. What about white?
Please God, no.
Purple and gold.
Yeah.
Anything.
I'm not a big fan of purple in general. It was even before JMU was a thing that I had to think about, but yeah, purple on the field, maybe a little bit, but TJ saying completely unbiased, by the way, definitely not an alum of Coastal Carolina. JMU has Bahamas grass. Is that right? Bahamas grass. So am I saying that right? You guys read that?
It looks right.
I know Bermuda grass. Okay.
When I kicked there, I went to because I was a kicker, obviously. Yeah, well, it wasn't turf. It definitely wasn't turf when I was there. Now that I think about it, they had a beautiful stadium though.
Yeah, that's JMU you're talking about.
Yeah, JMU. Yeah.
Yeah. No, they have one side that's really awesome. That other side just needs to come along. It's sorely lacking.
The away side.
Yeah, sorely lacking. All right, so we talked about the Coastal and Louisiana matchup already. Obviously, you got the game going on with Creighton. Troy this weekend. Any thoughts there, Hayden? I mean, do you see this one coming up being a bit of a battle? Do you think you guys should take care of Troy rather easily? Kind of what are your thoughts going into the weekend matchup here?
Obviously, I would love a sweep. Realistically, I just don't think it's going to happen. We haven't swept anyone yet this weekend in conference. That is, we swept Michigan previously, but I think this would be a 2-1 series. I think Coastal needs to win the first two, and then Sunday could just be who out hit who. But if I had to pick, I would say Coastal 2-1 this year. I haven't looked too much into Troy, but I've followed all their scores, and I see that they usually hang around with these SEC teams and other teams that they play. So I don't think it won't be a blowout by any means for either school.
Gotcha. Yeah, I mean, if it is going to be a blowout, I would side with Coastal. As we've seen, Georgia State could put up some runs and got that first win against Troy this past weekend. We'll talk about that in a minute. But yeah, we had our guys Grayson Stewart and Brady Fuller on last week, 2 pitchers for the Troy Trojans there. So we'll see if they get some action there against Coastal this weekend. I would expect at least one of them. I know Brady didn't go this past weekend. Not sure if there was maybe some slight injury, if they're resting him for a midweek game here or something, but we'll have to see about how that goes. That one's down there in Coastal, so I'm guessing you'll be there for the 3-game set for that.
Correct. Believe it or not, I'll be there Friday and Sunday. I'm going to commit a sin and miss a Coastal home game on Saturday for Kenny Chesney over in Charlotte.
Oh, okay. Well, I mean, it's a good reason. That's a rarity. It's not like you're missing it for a kid's birthday party or something.
Yeah, I would never do that. Never do that.
Oh, man. And then the Cajuns, if you don't recognize the logo there on screen, have a midweek matchup against Houston Christian, which, yes, that is a slightly newer logo than what they've used in the past, if you're wondering where that's come from, because that's definitely not the logo they've had historically. But they have a weekend matchup against Southern Miss. They play host to them in that one, so that will be on their side after having traveled to Conway, where they lost that one this past weekend. So that one will be a big-time matchup this coming weekend. And again, as you can see, the updated rankings on the screen here, Coastal now sitting at number 13 in the D1 baseball poll, while the Cajuns come in at 17. So in a way, this is good all the way around for the Sun Belt in general, because they keep 2 teams in the rankings, and Obviously, they didn't punish Louisiana for losing a tightly contested weekend series there in Coastal Carolina. So I'd say that's pretty good all the way around. Before we get into the next matchup here,
both of those series are big series for conference standings. I mean, Louisiana #1, Southern Miss in a tie for second, and then Coastal and Troy. That kind of will shake some things up there a little bit.
Yeah, definitely for sure. CJ wants to jump in with a football question. If you have any thoughts on Coach Bob at JMU, the new guy they brought in from off the top of my head. Hayden, you guys, Marv, know.
App just walked it off, by the way.
Oh, nice.
Yeah.
Very nice. I think, all right, Hayden, how do you feel about this? When it's midweek against, opponents outside the conference, are you just kind of roughly cheering for Sunbelt teams just so that the RPI within the conference stuff is better?
Yes.
Okay.
Yeah. I cheer for all the Sunbelt teams. Any team that Coastal has played or will play, I cheer for them. But now I was actually talking to my buddy about this. Now we're getting to the point of the season where those teams that are flirting with like a 8 to 16, 17, 18 ranking, I kind of want those teams to start losing because I want it. I would love to host a regional, whereas it be a question of us being a 15 or 16 or a 2 seed somewhere. So I kind of need to start seeing Duke, Wake, Carolina, some of those teams start taking some losses.
Well, you got your wish this past weekend. I think like 3 of the top ACC teams all lost their weekend series, I believe.
Right.
UNC going down to NC State. What was it? Florida State lost their series as well, I think, or something like that.
They lost 2-1 to Wake Forest, which we played Wake Forest, so that helps us out RPI, and we also split with Wake.
Makes sense. Artie has found 2 ballparks that have colored fields. Tarleton has blue infield and green outfield, and the University of New England has an all blue field. And he said he had to at least find one. So, yeah, man, that's awesome, man. Appreciate you finding that, Artie. That's interesting. Tarleton has a blue infield and a green outfield. But Tarleton State is like purple, aren't they?
Yeah, they are purple.
So that's an interesting field color choice. If you're not, if you're going to go with the colored field, I'm thinking school colors. That's an interesting color choice, I guess, at that point. Getting back to CJ's question, which is obviously more to do with football, the coaching change at James Madison with Coach Bob coming in there. Any thoughts, feelings on maybe where JMU ends up next year? Do they finally fall off, or do they stay at the top of the east side over here?
I got no thoughts on James Madison.
Yeah, realistically, I couldn't tell you a single thing about the new coach coming in. But I know it's hard when you get the coach's transition, but I would still, because JMU has a lot of athletes, I would still expect them to be top 2, top 3 at the least.
They lost a lot of talent, though, if I'm not mistaken.
They did lose a lot, yeah.
Yeah, they did lose a lot of talent. They brought in some talent. This coach is very well respected, and he's going to bring in some guys, both high school recruit-wise and transfer portal guys. So we'll see what he does. I think it's far too early to make any real prediction, honestly, before his team touches the field. Chase has got a nice one to say. It's probably a troll account. Coastal sucks. So I'll respectfully show people's comments as long as they're keeping it, mostly PG-13 over here.
Chase is sitting about I don't know what, 10 feet from me right now. So.
Oh, there we go. That's why. All right, that makes more sense then. I got it. It doesn't have a profile picture, so I figured it was like a new account someone had just made just to post that. So I got that. All right. JMU broke the brooms over Georgia Southern, is what CJ said, and he asked us to take a look at something. I don't know if Mark got a chance. I did. There was some usual balls and strikes that were questionable. The crowd didn't agree with one, but this was at James Madison. It was actually the Georgia Southern catcher who took a appeal to the ump after a non-strike call, stood up real quickly, took his mask off, kind of started yapping at the ump. I think at that point, that was the Sunday game, I believe, if I'm not mistaken. CJ can correct me if I'm wrong. It is interesting because, going back and watching it, knowing kind of what happened going in, As CJ said, he was a former ump. I was a former official of a different sport. But, yeah, I mean, I am very surprised that he didn't get thrown because he got up into the ump's face. The coach did as he comes out. I mean, he did everything but spit in the guy's face, went chest to chest, almost face to face. And then as the ump turned around to go back to home plate, the first base guy had come down to talk to, kind of alleviate the situation. He turns and bumps him and gets in his face, and he doesn't get tossed from the game at all. They let him stick around. And I'm like, yeah, I got to side with CJ and the JMU fans on that one. I mean, at that point, it's all just anger and frustration, and you're going to do that. You got to just toss him. Just get him out of there. I don't know. I mean, it's all part of the entertainment aspect, I guess. But
that's a pretty standard rule. You cannot argue balls and strikes without getting thrown out.
Yeah, well, he was kept around, which was shocking because that performance to me is, I mean, if you get that close to me and make physical contact, you're gone. I don't even care if it's baseball, basketball, soccer. If you come in and you bump an official and get in his, literally the hats had touched each other, kind of thing. I was like, nah, you're not going to disrespect me when I'm out there like that because anyway, ain't happening. Joe would like to let us know he would cheer for a flat tire before I cheer for Coastal. And he's hashtagging his podcast there, the Troy Boys, as he was on last week with our Troy pitchers. Chase is saying, we love you, Hayden. And 16-ounce lounge is fun with letters here saying Tuck Fulane as Southern Miss goes up against Tulane tonight. Has anyone got an eye on that score by chance?
I will look that up. But while we're doing that, just kind of want to comment on the series.
Yeah, go ahead.
We had talked before App got swept by JMU. I thought JMU's RPI was significantly too high, but they've swept 2 of their last 3 series. So maybe they're better than I thought they were. I really thought that Georgia Southern would have been more competitive in that series. Obviously, the last game might have been the most competitive. But I thought Southern was going to take one for sure. So kudos, JMU. Really takes everything inside of my body to say that. But they're playing good baseball. Maybe they are. Maybe the folks that come up with that computer bullcrap RPI know a little bit more than we do.
Yeah, maybe they do. JMU, if you look back at it, is apparently, after watching a couple clips from their games and highlights, they're really good at the small ball stuff. I mean, they're bunting, You don't see bunts a whole lot anymore. You see it more in college than pros at this point. But South Alabama pulled off like 5 in a row the other night when I was watching that game, which was phenomenal. I don't think I've ever seen any baseball team at any level pull off 5 straight bunts and succeed in that aspect. So interesting. But JMU just well-rounded, I guess, is what I'd say when it comes to that. And then Artie is saying he's got to apologize. It was not Tarleton. It was actually Commerce. But they are, I believe, down in Texas. Actually, that was a team that football-wise came up and played ODU earlier this year for football. So
to answer the previous question, Southern Miss is beating Tulane 7-4 in the bottom of the 6th.
Awesome. That's a good one there for the Golden Eagles.
Team.
Yeah. Joe saying JMU, owner of 0 conference titles. Hashtag who cares? CJ was letting us know it was the Sunday game, and Artie's asking, will the Sun Belt Conference issue a punishment? It's interesting. I mean, I don't know if I'd go as far as a punishment. It just should have been taken care of immediately there on the field. He didn't shove anybody or punch anybody or push anybody, but he did make physical contact, trying to exude his dominance over an ump, I guess. I don't know what those guys try and pull off there. But yeah, CJ's probably right. It's probably paperwork that's just not worth it, but he's saying you definitely can't touch them. And Robert is saying you're not going to get a call the rest of the night after that. Yeah, well, with JMU winning 8-4, maybe they didn't. Georgia Southern had a midweek matchup against Mercer tonight. As we heard from CJ already, Maryland took care of JMU 6-4. Each team matching up this weekend. Georgia Southern with Marshall at home down there in Statesboro. JMU travels to Mobile to face South Alabama in that one. Oh, man, I don't know. South Alabama is a little dangerous. They just won their weekend series against Texas State 2-1. So maybe that one's a little bit more competitive than some people may think going in. I would favor James Madison to come out with at least a 2-1 victory in that one. But, as Marv just said, I mean, they've swept their last two. Maybe they keep that train rolling.
Yeah, I don't know about that, but they're playing good ball in that Georgia Southern Marshall series. Maybe Georgia Southern gets ripe, as we've talked about. I'm surprised how low Marshall's record is. Marshall's got two stud pitchers, and one of those guys can shut you down at any moment. Their Saturday guy, I can't remember his name, but he's been pitcher of the week like 3 or 4 times already. So be interesting to keep up with that one.
Yeah, very much so. Hayden, any thoughts on these fine teams that you love so much?
So speaking of Georgia Southern, I actually forgot to mention it early on. I've been to States for a few times. Love their facilities. Another place that even for the Coastal games that I've gone to there, great crowd, very hospitable towards me and my family when we go down there.
That's interesting.
Oh yeah, dude, they invite us to their tailgates. I mean,
yeah. Have this logo on your body, and you will not get the same experience. It'll be a nightmare.
No. Yeah, I figured. I mean, I've done the same thing. I went to a Tennessee Florida game in the swamp, and I wore Tennessee stuff, and I got 4 free beers in 15 minutes. So I don't know. Maybe it's just maybe I look like I like the party, so people invite me to all their tailgates. Same thing with JMU. JMU invite me to their tailgates, and we're doing like 5-6 shots of moonshine. I'm like, oh my god, this stuff is smooth. I'm like, what's the proof on this? And this lady goes, oh, like 125, and I'm like 5 shots deep at this point. I'm like,
but no, start eating the bread at that point.
Yeah, I made it through the game. God bless. But unfortunately, because we got blown out like 47-7 or something crazy like that. But I think JMU swept Southern, correct?
I'll have to. I know they swept App, and they just swept. They just swept Southern last weekend. Yeah.
Yeah, that's pretty shocking to me because Georgia Southern's a pretty good ball club. We went down to Statesboro, we took 2 out of 3 down there. That shocked me, but JMU is pretty hot. I mean, their RPI is top 25, but they're not considered a tournament team right now. But here's my thing: you love the RPI so much when it comes to all these other teams. Like, oh, their RPI is 7, they have to be a regional host, or oh, they're top whatever. But then you look at JMU like, oh, that's a fluke. They shouldn't be that high. Hey, if you're gonna ride the RPI like that, then keep the same energy when it comes to JMU, ODU, and all these other teams. But South Alabama is a team that I think is pretty solid. That GMU South Alabama series is gonna be a 2-1 series. I think same with Southern and Marshall. I don't know. Southern's kind of let me down this year. I thought they were gonna be a lot better than what they have been. So I think any other year I probably pick Southern 3-0, but I think this would be like a 2-1 series as well, but I think Southern wins that series.
I agree.
Nice. Yeah. CJ saying, I missed the first one. He said, at least App State softball and baseball can relate to a JMU sweep. Little trash talk there. And he says he had some water thrown at him. I think he said before when I had this conversation I think he was with one of his daughter maybe. So, yeah, I mean, there's some places you don't want to wear the wrong colors in this conference, but for the most part, we've had some decent experiences. Do you have any run-ins when you've been up at App State when you're wearing your Coastal gear? So,
funny enough, the first time I went, and this is when App State kicked the game-winning field goal, I had, and I can't repeat it, but I had so many FUs, F Coastals, this, that, third, and I think the best one was that I would have female students come up to me, grabbing me by the shirt collar, getting in my face, saying F Coastal, F this. And, of course, I would say some smart stuff back that I probably shouldn't have said. I'm not going to repeat it. But so I messed up. I bought tickets 4 rows behind what I thought was the Coastal section, but I read their old seating chart. So I was 4 rows behind the App State student section. So that was a character builder. Nothing can ever offend me ever again. And then, but when I went for baseball this past year, and I went for football last year when Coastal had the walk-off field goal, very, very mild. Like I went out to the bars. I went to Ale Street and another brewery, and his place is downtown Boone. Nothing ever got said to me. This my past 2 times in Boone for football and baseball. So don't know what's changed, but I know I got it the first time I went to Boone.
Yeah, I was I was surprised with how rowdy the crowd was that night, but a weekend or a weekday game like that, the intensity was there. I didn't get to witness any of the bad stuff, but I just saw the people around me going nuts. People were sloshed on a weekday night. So, yeah. We got Dominic Ambrose joining up saying, "What's up, fellas?" He's going to be on the NFL Draft Special featuring the Sunbelt talent tomorrow night. For those of you football fans who want to come back around and hang out with us some more. But we go back to the baseball real quick. Troy takes care of Georgia State. We talked about this a little bit because of the guys we had on the show last week, and Joe, who was actually on the show as well last week. Georgia State kind of jumps up, surprises, takes that 10-8 win in that first game, but Troy takes the series. That second game actually started on Saturday and finished a single inning on Sunday to get that one complete. Troy was in complete control when that game ended, so it wasn't a surprise to see them get the victory there. But then they hang on and also win that Sunday series, or find that final game of the series, 10-7. Marv, do you have any notes on this one specifically?
No, I mean, I thought that Troy was going to win the series. I still think that Georgia State's not as good as what their record shows. Troy's a top 4 team in the conference. 3 competitive baseball games, though. I mean, the middle game might not have been that competitive, but I think the result is what I would have thought it would have been going in. So, yeah, nothing really surprising.
Yeah, I'd say not. Troy doesn't have a midweek game at all, which, Hayden, will get your thoughts on that. Georgia State, however, has 2 separate ones. I believe they have one at home and one on the road, if I'm not mistaken. Alabama State and Presbyterian. So not terrible far travel for them. But then they have App State coming to them there in Atlanta this weekend. So, Hayden, thoughts on the fact that Troy gets to a little rest before facing you guys at home there this weekend?
Smart, because we probably used 5 or 6 pitchers today.
7 or 8.
Oh yeah, 7 or 8, and we actually just lost 7-3 against Creighton. But we play again tomorrow, so we're gonna burn all of our bullpen arms. You get a day rest, which will be your travel day, and then you have a 3-game series. So, not making excuses, but it's kind of hard to play 2 games, fly across the country the next day, play a big weekend series. I don't know. I still think Coastal goes 2-1. But if Troy takes the series, I wouldn't be shocked, honestly.
Okay. Yeah, I think that's fair. I mean, that's a great point. I mean, before seeing this, you don't even think about that as being a big aspect, but that's a massive aspect to baseball. Like you said, when you're using up those arms, you just can't turn them right around and put them back out there again. So, yeah, very, very interesting aspect to that series this weekend. Southern Miss takes the series over Monroe 2-1, just hammering them in the first 2 games, run ruling them 2 in a row after Southern Miss had just gotten run ruled by, guess who? Georgia State the weekend previous. So just craziness in this conference. It doesn't make any – well, this made sense. I think this made sense. I actually figured Southern Miss would sweep them 3-0 in this one. So respect for ULM not quitting and getting a 5-1 victory on Sunday to keep this one somewhat respectable, even though they got hammered in those first 2. But anything crazy to you on your guys' side for this one?
Sweeps are hard, but I would have thought this one would have been a sweep. So, yeah, like you said, kudos to ULM for getting one, but I would have liked to have seen Southern Miss get the sweep, because the better our top heavy teams are, the better chance we have of getting 4 and 5 teams in the regional. Yeah.
And when you have like the Coastal Louisiana matchup, you almost, unless you're a Coastal or a Louisiana fan, you almost want that one to go 2-1. Because like I said, you keep both teams ranked. They both look strong, which they did. So that's another aspect of that. It's not like, the 2 wins for Coastal were 13-0 wins and Louisiana barely won the third one or something. Just a respectable series for both teams all the way around. This one, not really the same in that regard, but like you said, Southern Miss getting a sweep would have gone a long way for, a couple of reasons. They are going against Tulane, as we just heard. They have the Cajuns on the road this weekend at number 17 there. ULM has Little Rock in midweek, and then they travel to ODU. So interesting one there. I think probably everybody here would favor the Monarchs in the ULM ODU matchup. Yeah, yep. Head nods. Okay. So thoughts on the Southern Miss Louisiana matchup? This second straight week of a real tough opponent for the Cajuns here after a great start to the conference play.
I'm gonna go 2-1 Cajuns just because it's in Lafayette. If it was at the Pete, I'd probably go 2-1 the other way. To be completely honest,
Give me 2-1 Southern Miss for the brand, because I think the Sun Belt really needs Southern Miss. They keep putting themselves in that situation of making a regional and then they drop a game that they shouldn't. So I think this would be a chance for Southern Miss to beat Tulane. I think they're up by 3 right now, and then if they can take a series at Louisiana, I think that adds on Southern Miss back into the regional aspect of maybe getting them in, get ODU in. I still think JMU should get in, but a lot of the experts don't think so. So I think the Sun Belt needs a Southern Miss series winner, because I think Louisiana will still get in regardless.
and as a Coastal fan, if Louisiana dropped that series and you pick up a series win, you chip away another game or two.
Exactly.
True. Very, very true. Yep. Multiple reasons for Coastal fans to be rooting for that one. ODU beats Marshall 2-1, and I thought it was a very respectable series. Obviously, that last game got away from Marshall, but they take the first one 4-2. They hammer out a defensive battle, really, in that second one, and ODU comes away with that 3-1 victory. And the ODU Bats wake up on Sunday to take that 12-2 victory, and ultimately the series in that one. Marv, do you have any notes on those guys?
Well, I mean, so Marshall's Friday and Saturday guys are studs, and their Sunday guy. I mean, we saw what App did to him on Sunday. I think we had 12 runs in the first inning. Listen, Marshall, if they can get the bats going with the pitching they have, they'll be fine. They just haven't been able to put it together. But like you said, I think everyone would have expected for ODU to take 2 out of 3 on that one. But Marshall's got pitching that's going to keep them in their Friday and Saturday games.
Makes sense. Hayden, any thoughts on that one?
No, I mean, he pretty hit it well on. I'm pretty high on ODU and Marshall. I thought Marshall at the beginning of the year was going to be like a bottom feeder in the Sun Belt Conference, but I mean, they're getting wins here and there, looking pretty decent. I mean, I really don't think there's a god-awful team. I mean, even ULM took a game from Coastal. So, and they took a game, I want to say against, what was it, Southern Miss last weekend?
I think you're right.
Yeah,
Yep.
so I mean, they usually take a game here and there. I mean, they're not awful. They probably have the best uniforms when they wear the little the Warhawk ones.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, those things are pretty cool.
Spider Jet one. Yeah, they had a combination of 2 of the better uniforms all season. This past was it this past week? Yeah, it was this past weekend, because USM wore the Camp Shelby ones, and ULM wore the Warhawk ones, or the I don't know if they have a specific name for that, but yeah, I mean, that was a cool matchup because of the jerseys alone there. Marshall does not have a midweek. ODU is going against VCU. I think that one is tomorrow. No, that one was tonight, and ODU beat them 7-1. So that's a good victory in the midweek for the Sun Belt there. And then they match up with the team we just spoke about with ULM. Marshall going on the road to Statesboro to play Georgia Southern. Kind of talked about that one already there. Texas State went down 2-1 to South Alabama. They did get that first game victory, 6-3. Thought maybe, they were turning the thing around there. And then South Alabama came out with a 5-2 and 3-1 victory. Anybody surprised that Texas State continues to struggle? I know I am personally, because I thought Texas State was going to jump out and be one of the better teams in this conference this season before it all got going.
Yeah, I'm a little surprised. I'm with you, Dom. I thought that Texas State was a top 5 team in the conference. Artie's been telling us for several weeks that they're not that good. I don't know. They're a middle of the pack team, but it does surprise me. You would think that they would get 2 out of 3 from South Alabama. South Alabama was a pretty decent squad, but I don't know. Little disappointed in Texas State.
Yeah, Hayden.
Kind of the other way around. I thought South Alabama was going to, kind of flirt with, Southern Miss, Coastal Louisiana for like top 4. I watched them, I want to say 2 years ago in the Gainesville regional. I can't remember if they won that regional or not. I think they did. I think they beat South Florida in that regional. But, I watched them hammer Florida and beat Miami. So, I mean, I don't know. I kind of I see that brand, and I kind of remember those recent times of seeing South Alabama. So this year, kind of not the same, but 2 out of 3 at Texas State, not bad. I mean, I really thought that South Alabama was going to be kind of better than what I thought that they would get in a tournament with USM, Louisiana, Coastal.
Yeah, it's interesting. Like historically, South Alabama is a great baseball program, but recently hasn't been very good. Well, like you said, I guess the other year when they made a regional matchup, obviously that's a good year. But last year, not good. I think they ended the season. I keep saying this every once in a while we talk about it. I think they ended the season on a 14-game losing streak. But as Hayden said, and the coaches poll reflected before this season started, for whatever reason, whatever guys they brought in or changes they made, they had earned a lot of respect by the coaches poll because they jumped about 5 or 6 spots and ended up being what people thought was going to be in the top half of this conference after finishing in the very bottom of it last season. So yeah, maybe they're rounded into form here just after the midpoint of the season. But a historic baseball program. So having good baseball in Mobile is something that could only help the Sun Belt moving forward. Artie had some thoughts on that one. We went to the bullpen to get the win. Bobcats got Faber back into the lineup and his bat giving spark. Bobcats back on track this weekend. He's calling a series win, actually, 2-1 over Arkansas State, as he's predicting. It's not that they're not good, but extremely low effort since the Lafayette game, and we're going to rally the rest of the year. Okay, so he's got his optimism back up now. He's coming back around to his Bobcats. So we'll see if that comes to fruition. South Alabama, no midweek. Texas State, as we knew now from Artie, already took care of Incarnate Word tonight. They have Arkansas State in Jonesboro this weekend, where Artie's predicting them to get back on track again. 2-1 series victory over the Red Wolves there. South Alabama going up against James Madison. Already talked about that one. All right, so we end the show every week with taking a look at the picks. Hayden, I don't know if you've seen this one going around. Our boy Seth couldn't make it on the show tonight. Unfortunately.
This
yeah, exactly. He's hiding. He's hiding. Yeah. Ofer, man. Ofer. And you can give him some hell there, Hayden, because he picked against your Coastal shots at clears, as Marv and I did the opposite, and we got it right. So we were rewarded for that. He went a little strong. He helped bring in the 2 players that we had from Troy last week. So I guess he was going to favor them in a sweep. Didn't get that one right either. And none of us got the James Madison series victory correct.
We all missed it. Damn, Dom, you went big on Georgia Southern last week.
Yeah. I just put it in the wrong spot. That's all that happened there. I just simple math.
You got to blame yourself.
Yeah. No, I
you're
thought
a little streak here, man. You've won 2 of 3. 3 weekends in a row?
At least 2 weeks in a row. I'm not sure about 3, but it was really bad start, so it wouldn't surprise me. Yeah, and I'm 3 games behind everyone, Hayden. For you there watching and the people maybe listening at home, I only have an 8-16 record. My start of the season was truly awful. But as you can see here, it doesn't matter if you get the winning team right. You have to nail the winner of the series and the games exactly, or you get no credit. So we go really tough on the grades here. We only pick 3 series every week because of that, because then our records would look truly awful if we did every Sun Belt game. It also fits a little bit better on the screen when you can have bigger graphics for 3 series to focus on there. But I guess that's mostly rounding it out here. But you guys have anything left to share? Marv, any other questions or comments as we head toward the finale of the show here?
No, just man, conference is winding down. It's 4 more weekends. That's it before we go to the tournament. So a lot of teams need to separate themselves. That middle is absolutely packed. So it's a log pile there in the middle. So folks got to separate themselves. There's a bunch of big series this weekend, and excited to see how it all shakes out. Yeah.
Hayden, any final thoughts before we wrap it up here?
Yeah, just excited again for the next 4 weekends. Conference tournament's going to be super fun. If anyone's going down listening, I'll be down there. Ideally Thursday through Sunday, kind of floating back between Sun Belt and SEC. Like if Coastal has a morning session, I'll go to the SEC at night, Thursday through Sunday. And then if Coastal gets eliminated, which I hope they don't, then I'll go to the SEC tournament, watch some ball there. But I'm trying to get in 4 conference tournaments. I'm trying to get in the CAA and the ACC early in the week, and then finish it down in Alabama for a bunch of games, and then obviously regionals the week after, which if I attend every game that I'm scheduled to, regionals go 6 games. That 6th game of the regional will put me at a very nice 69 games for the year.
Nice.
So you're not going to Omaha. You're not going to wasn't it a Rob Gronkowski that like his senior year at Arizona or whatever it was, like intentionally dropped his 70th pass so he could have 69 catches on the year?
If it was Rob Gronkowski, I have zero doubts that that's exactly
I'm pretty sure, whether it's a lie or not. I read the story and I'm with you. It's like, that's very believable.
But
yes.
No, I do hope I have to go to a super regional and sell my CCMF tickets down here in Myrtle Beach, and then I hope I have to go to Omaha. And like I said, I told everyone, I actually saw Creighton play at Charleston Southern a couple weeks ago, and I was telling my friend, I was like, oh my God, this team is going to Omaha. Like, I was just hyping it up. And then she caught on because she used to work for Cincinnati Reds, and she was like, don't they play in Omaha? I'm like, yeah. Like, I was like, they're my sleeper for Omaha, them or Lamar, but.
Oh, man. That's awesome. Oh, man. Well, I had a blast, man, learning all these things that we did from you tonight, just hearing about your travels, your journeys. Thank you for making the time and coming on here and having a good time with us tonight. And be sure to get your W down below. 20% off, guys. That's a big deal. They usually don't go that far. So SB Syndicate at checkout. Again, I'm using it as a soda replacement for those that like to do that. Like the girlish figure here. We got to keep that going on. So I'm trying to do that. Yeah, exactly. And for those still with us, be sure to check out the NFL draft special as we talk mostly Sunbelt, but obviously we're going to wrap it into just talking NFL straight talk as well. So it should be a good time tomorrow night. I'm going to try and get some sleep somewhere in between this and going to work full time tomorrow. So, thanks for tuning in. We really appreciate it, and we'll see you guys later.